Goodness gracious, it's already July 6th, Anthony. I can't believe it. It feels like summer's just flying by.
I can't wait for July 4th.
Yeah, neither can I. That's weird. Hey, Anthony, so great to see you today. I hope you had a great holiday weekend. I know that I did. Beautiful weather, beautiful barbecue, great time.
July 4th, 2020 didn't happen, so I'm looking forward to 2021.
Well, I totally understand you on
Actually,
that
the beaches were crazy, but good like crazy. Like I went down to the beach on Saturday, and everybody in the community had their chairs on the beach. And it was like everybody was separated and everybody was on the beach kind of standing, further away from each other than normal. And it was busy, but it was like the lifeguards were there and it was, it looked relatively normal. And it's really the only place that looks normal. And like I said, mostly social separating. I left about 10:30 in the morning. I didn't stay all day. But it was it seemed normal. I just hope that it doesn't affect the numbers, but it looked like everybody was having fun.
Everybody was definitely having fun in our community. I can't speak to the numbers on the beach because we didn't get out there, but there were certainly a lot of people that may have been launching illegal fireworks all around my neighborhood to a degree that I never saw before.
Don't. Well, I did in the 80s, and I don't get me started. All right, so we have a wonderful friend of ours who I always look forward to hearing.
Yes, and I want to say before we bring in the incredible, amazing Mr. Chip Rogers, I just want to say after Chip Rogers' interview, we've got Rebecca Alesia of SmartFlyer back. She's a travel agent with Virtuoso, one of the top travel agents in the country, to share a little bit about her perspective of what we're seeing. We had her on a few months ago. We'll get an update. Let's go straight to Chip Rogers. Chip Rogers, President and CEO of AHLA, American Hotel and Lodging Association. Welcome back to the show, Chip. Always great to see you. You're in Florida today. How awesome is that to be out of town?
I am Florida. You can see on this, what is this, a picture back here behind me. Looks very Floridian. It's great. The beach is wonderful. Anthony was mentioning the 80s. The 80s were an incredible time, but I agree, probably not a good idea to share too many details.
We don't want to go back to the 80s.
Funny enough, I introduced to my kids last night. Producer Jeff is here, and we watched the movie One Crazy Summer last night. Summer of 1986 that came out. So that was a real good time. If you haven't seen that movie, go check it out. Really, really hysterical 80s comedy. So
Mr. Chip Rogers, what's going on?
It's interesting. A lot of stuff is happening, good and bad. We're seeing some challenges in some city locations, particularly on the West Coast, with things that are happening with organized labor that are really, really challenging. On the congressional side, there still seems to be a lot of effort to make sure we get a next version of assistance to businesses that have been hurt the most. And I think that is the single most important item I can share with you today is what's happening on Capitol Hill seems to be a bipartisan effort to really rally around this notion that the next set of assistance monies really needs to go to those industries and those businesses that have specifically been hurt the most. And of course, everybody in the hotel industry, just about everybody's going to fall into that category.
Right. And the restaurant business as well, and bars and that sort of thing, because we, as you know, have absolutely been crushed, Chip. So what does the next set of reform, assistance, all of that kind of stuff look like as of now? And how does that compare to what you would expect and hope to see?
And also, just to mention, the PPP money got extended, correct?
Yes. Yeah, we're going to talk about that as well.
Great.
So building off of the PPP, and we'll talk about that in a minute, Glenn, what happened last week with that. What I think this is kind of the game that's being played right now. On the one hand, you have the Republicans who still want the liability protection for businesses. That's the number one priority in the Senate. On the House side for the Democrats, they want to extend the unemployment benefits, the $600 per week additional benefit, and that runs out at the end of July. So I think those are the two major competing factors that will come together in part of a plan. But the baseline of that plan is hopefully going to be additional money targeted at those businesses who have lost a percentage of their revenue compared to last year. Now, the legislation that we're favoring and supporting is a bipartisan bill that was introduced in the Senate quite some time ago called the Restart Act. And the way the language was introduced, that if you'd lost more than 25% of your revenue compared to the same time last year, you would get what we would like to call almost a PPP on steroids. You could get up to 45% a loan for up to 45% of your revenue from the previous year, whatever your 2019 revenues were, up to a maximum of $12 million. It would be forgiven a little bit differently than the PPP, but still a good portion of it could be forgiven. And if any of it turned into a loan, the terms were very favorable. It was a seven-year loan term. So that's the measure we're supporting. We're getting both Democrat and Republican support on that to really focus on this idea of making sure that whatever next set of money comes out, that it is targeted to those businesses that have been hurt the most.
Right. So targeting the businesses that hurt the most, how are people going to get engaged in that? How do we know which businesses have been hurt the most? What can folks do if you're at a hotel to find out more information, to get involved, have your voice heard, so that way their bipartisan effort will actually pass as opposed to just be talked about?
Well, we always, of course, urge people to use Hotels Act, which is part of AHLA. It's free to sign up for. And what that does is so important to make sure that our industry is being represented by a single, loud, very clear voice. One of the problems you have in Washington, D.C. now, and really any time, are industries who kind of split their efforts. And one group of part of an industry is talking about one thing, there's another part of an industry talking about another thing. Lawmakers get confused and they're like, look, you guys go figure it all out, bring us back one simple answer. And so when we speak with a single voice, we're much more effective. And right now, we have been rallying not just our industry, but other small businesses that we know have been hurt, the restaurants and others, around this Restart Act in the Senate, because we believe that's the vehicle that has the best chance of passing.
And do you think they really understand? Do they understand the complexity of what's going on? And I don't mean to talk down because they're politicians, but I mean, do they really understand? Because a lot of them never ran a small business and they had to make payroll.
Right.
Do they get it? Do they really, emotionally understand that people are losing everything?
Anthony, that's a great question. And it's really difficult to answer because some do, some don't. But I think you bring up a good point. As politicians are going to focus on the success stories, right? It's our job to make sure that they understand the reality. So yeah, there are some success stories. I'm sitting in Florida right now, and if I walked up to a hotel down the street and ask them what their occupancy rate is, it's pretty darn good right now, no question about it. But that's not a representation of the entire country. We know what the national occupancy rate is, right around 47% this week. We know that in the large urban centers, particularly around any type of convention center, that occupancy is probably in the single digits even to this day. And so it's our job to remind them what is actually happening in the marketplace, not just focus on the few success stories that are good. We certainly support that.
And those hotels that you talk about in the single digits, those are the hotels with the heaviest burden as far as expenses and as far as real estate taxes, because they're in the
places like New York City.
They're in the A-list cities. So kind of getting back to that article I saw you post on LinkedIn about San Francisco and what's happening in San Francisco. So can we talk through that a little bit of what they're asking?
So that's the Healthy Buildings Ordinance that's been proposed, Chip?
You can call it whatever you want.
I'm calling it what the San Francisco Examiner's calling it, not me.
Yeah, that's what they call it. I would argue there's nothing healthy about it at all.
Yeah.
It's about as shameful as you can imagine. So in an industry where, Anthony, as you pointed out, particularly these large cities like San Francisco, where the Moscone Center is not even open yet, and those hotels most of them are not even open, and tens of thousands of hotel employees don't have jobs. Along comes the union to suggest the most arcane work rules that you can ever imagine. Now, first of all, they're suggesting that every room has to be cleaned every day. And so we did a poll to find out, is that really what guests want?
Right.
In fact, 2/3 of guests, by 2-to-1 margin, don't want people inside their room during their stay. Of course, they want it cleaned before and after, but they don't want people in their room during their stay. And that ought to be the guest's right to do so. So that's first and foremost. The second part of that ridiculous idea in San Francisco is they've taken every public space in a hotel, and they've said that you have to clean it no less than every 30 minutes. Now I want that to sink in for a second. That means every meeting room, every lobby, every restroom, that's the floor, shampooing the carpets, that's the windows, that's the walls. They even go down to, in the meeting room, you have to clean the stapler no less than every 30 minutes. So let's think about this. So you don't have a meeting, At 2:30 a.m., you clean the stapler in the in the meeting room. At 3 a.m., you got to go back and do it again.
I know that the guy from Office Space would be delighted about that, but I can't think of anyone else.
And you know what? Once, and again, the person that has a lot of union experience in New York City, 30 years, once they get it, you're never going to get it back. And I remember, give you an example. Once we started putting coffee makers in the hotel rooms years ago, they would go and say, well, $7 a coffee maker. So what do you mean $7 a coffee maker? We want $7 to clean a coffee maker. We negotiated it down, but now every housekeeper in New York City gets paid for a coffee maker. And I think they rolled it in eventually. But my point being is, again, being a very big employee advocate and union supporter, okay, it's really important for people to understand that. I support the union in New York City. However, and unions, hotel unions, because I've seen when in some parts of the country where employees aren't being protected, but there are arcane things that they ask for. They're insane things that they ask for, like this, will put those employees out of business. This is what happened in New York City. The Hilton Hotel closed room service because the expense just got too much. They asked for more and more. You only have a few elevators. You have 100 waiters on a Sunday morning bringing food to all your guests, and you have to charge high. You have to charge.
Anthony, you're referring specifically to when they introduced Grab and Go a number of years ago, so related to COVID, right?
Completely, yes. So So what happened was they said, okay, they were asking for more and more. They said, room service is closed. They said, you can't do that. So we just did. We closed it. And in the contract, if you close the department, you close the department. So they closed it. And it wasn't even grab and go. There was nobody going to the room. It was no room service.
No, it's the people grab it and they go.
What I'm saying, like, there was no delivery of the room or anything because you can't get around that unless it was outside. But my point being is, yes, we want housekeepers to work. Yes, we want employees to work, and we want them to make as much money as possible. But literally right before COVID happened, major hotels in New York City were making the most money they've ever made, and they weren't making a profit. And there's 2 hotels that just went down, and there's 2 more hotels that I got on good notice that are going to go down too. And these are major 1,000-room hotels. So, Chip, it would put San Francisco hotel business out of business.
There is no question about it. You're exactly right. In fact, most of the hotels just won't reopen.
Right. What I don't understand is, why does the union want this to happen? Is it more so their people could get back to work? Because I would think if you ask the people that are in the union, they don't want to necessarily be going into people's rooms every day to clean, for example.
Well, that's true. There's no doubt about it. In fact, health experts say not to do that. So this is actually,
I don't want anybody in my room.
The title of the legislation called Healthy Building Ordinance. There's nothing healthy about it. And by the way, keep in mind, they just happen to include a nice little nugget in there that says all public buildings that are run by the city and the county, this doesn't apply to them.
Oh, how convenient.
So clearly, it's all about health, right?
Right. So you can get sick in a public building, but you can't get sick in a hotel.
Exactly.
And if that passes, and I don't know, I'm going to ask you in a second what are the chances of it passing, you will literally destroy San Francisco. Now,
the chances of it passing, 100%, it's going to pass.
Why do you think 100% it's going to pass? When you see people such as, Thomas Baltimore, chairman and CEO of Park Hotels and Resorts, wrote a really compelling argument against it in the San Francisco Examiner, and there's a lot of other smart people out there. What's with the makeup of the city council that they're not hearing clearly what's going on here?
The city council of San Francisco, first of all, doesn't necessarily care about business in the least. I think their history shows that. Second of all, the idea that they care about cleanliness is a joke. Just look at the streets of San Francisco, and that'll answer that question. But third of all, they've told us that this is going to pass. And not only is it going to pass, it's going to pass without the ability for the mayor to veto it. It's going to pass with an override majority, which means that we've been directly in contact with the mayor, members of the Board of Supervisors. They've all told us it's passing.
Well, what do they think is going to happen if you pass this thing? I mean, do they just believe that all of a sudden all of this is just going to go away and there's going to be a bottomless pit of money, or maybe they're banking on that PPP money to come through to pay for all of this ridiculousness?
Look, I think Anthony mentioned it a moment ago, and he's right. In many places, unions work very well with our industry. We can look at the facts, come to a mutual decision that's best for everybody, and move forward. There's always going to be pressure on both sides, no question. In San Francisco, they're not looking at the facts. They're not looking at the fact that most hotels are already closed. So if a hotel's closed and then you add on top of their challenges all these unrelated expenses, and when I say unrelated, they're unrelated to keeping people safe and clean. Let's be clear about that. There's no way that hotel can reopen. If they're not already reopened, why would they reopen with more costs?
Right.
And so it's not
costs that don't make sense. I've been an advocate on the show of your costs are going to go up anywhere from 5 to 8 to 9%, and you're just going to have to deal with that because housekeepers, and housemen, they got to be protected, and we have to have the right equipment. So it's just going to happen. But this is just like you saw my face. That wasn't like I wasn't trying to be funny. Like that will literally put San Francisco out of business.
It will. And I've already spoken to a number of owners who said, look, I don't have hotels open in San Francisco now, and I certainly won't open them. But the few that I do have open, I will close until this stops.
Wow. It makes no sense because you are putting housekeepers in more danger by putting them in the rooms every single day. Yes, if there could be some intelligent legislation where it's like, because housekeepers aren't going in the rooms, okay, then maybe is there another job they can be cross-trained to? And if they can't, then what does that look like? Maybe they have to get unemployment extended. There's many things you can do because nobody wants to see a housekeeper unemployed. However, you cannot make busy work and give somebody a paycheck when there's no money coming in. It's just, I mean, that's what, like, I don't think anybody in Congress or Senate could ever be there unless they've run a business. And because those people that I've seen more business owners cry over their employees than cry over their business. Okay.
You're right.
I have not seen one person that I know, and I've spoken to probably 50, 60 people over the last few weeks. Now, one person tell me about their business. Every single one of them is, I got my friend who's been working with me for 20 years and he can't afford to feed his family and I can't give him any money because I'm broke. It's constant. And it's absolutely insane that they have no concept of this.
And Anthony, just to be clear, I wish San Francisco were the only place where this is happening. But this started to happen in Phoenix. We were able to beat that one back last week.
Right.
They're talking about bringing it up in San Diego. There's discussion of it being introduced in Seattle, rumblings of it in Chicago. Yeah. And so it's happening everywhere right now. And it's really—
How about New York?
New York, actually, they came to an agreement. It's certainly not going to help the bottom line, but they did come to an agreement so they can at least move forward. And so I want to,
what was the agreement that Mr. Ward got?
Wasn't nearly as draconian as San Francisco. There are additional cleaning measures that are being taken. I believe they had some language around who you can bring back first, those type things.
All right.
But
so stuff that you can live with.
All right. So, Chip, I'm curious as to what the psychology is. And obviously, you're not here representing the union. So I'm just kind of fishing around here. But what are they thinking? Because isn't their goal to help their members? And doesn't this go smack against helping their members? It'll be literally the opposite and hurting their membership numbers.
Two things. I think they don't believe, they think the owners are bluffing when owners say they won't open or they won't close down the ones that are already open. I think they believe owners are bluffing. So we'll see what happens with that. I know these owners and I know that I've seen the numbers and they're not bluffing.
Right.
They literally won't open or they will close down. So I think that's first and foremost. They always believe there's this extra big pot of money, particularly if it's a public company.
Well, how could they even think that now? I mean, Harris Rosen, who we had on the show a week ago Friday, is spending $6 million a month just to pay his employees. And he's a much larger company than a lot of these people. So I don't even see that as in touch with reality at all. Sorry, Chip, please continue.
No, I think you're right. I think second is timing. And I think this is really interesting. Keep in mind right now that every unemployed person in the United States who has tapped into their unemployment insurance in their particular state, they get their state amount and then they get $600 on top of that.
Right.
That is coming to an end at the end of July. So if you're the union right now, you got a lot of folks who are unemployed. They're doing okay.
Right.
So they might be looking at this from a timing perspective, saying now is the time to go after the owners because, you get to mid-August and these folks don't have their unemployment and they don't have their job back, they're going to be very unhappy.
But I thought I just read something yesterday that they're extending it to August something, the PPP money.
The PPP, yeah, but that's not the unemployment, the bonus $600 a week unemployment.
The PPP money is a mechanism for owners where the unemployment goes directly to the employees.
So do you think they'll extend their unemployment though, or no?
I think there's a deal to be made to have some extension of it. The Republicans want it as a credit for bringing people back on board. Democrats in the HEROES Act they passed a couple of months ago actually extended it to the end of next January. That's never going to work. So if Republicans get their liability protection for businesses, Democrats will get some extension in the unemployment. We'll see how that works out.
And to answer your question, Glenn, again, having a lot of experience with the union.
Yeah.
They want their employees to be taken care of. Now, their employees are our employees. So if you're good owners and you're good management, the employees work with us. Right. They work for us. We pay their health care. We pay their benefits. The union is there to represent them when they're not being treated fairly. And I have seen owners not treat employees fairly, and the union was very important. And I've also seen where employees were trying to get away with stuff, and there were a lot of battles that I was in the middle of. And Peter probably remembers me from those battles. With that said, if you have good ownership and good management, the union does their job by protecting them if there's not good management. What happens is they are trying to justify their existence, because one of the things they have to say to the union members now is you still got to pay your fee. You still got to pay your union dues. Okay. So they want people to go back to work so the union can stay in business.
Right.
Okay. If they don't go back to work, they're not going to pay their fee.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they got to go back to work. So it's justifying their existence, which again, understandable. I understand both sides. So, this is in no way, shape, or form a hit on the union. They have a role. However, it comes down to economics. And the economics is just keep it closed. I've made some decisions in my own business, right, to save costs. And I'm just I'm enjoying it the way it's running, so I probably won't do the way I used to do it. It's not going to cost anybody their job. But once people make a decision, they move on. So if they decide to close that hotel and they decide to move on, they take their loss and they move on, they go do something else. They'll invest in environmental services. These are entrepreneurs. They'll figure it out. But these employees aren't going to get their job back.
That is so true.
And a great point here from Kevin Sanders. Do these large cities not appreciate the tax revenue from hotels? Because that seems to be the direction that they're heading in, having less money. All right, Chip, I want to talk a little bit about that PPP issue that's going on there. You guys have done a great job making sure that gets extended. I believe it's through the end of the year. Melissa Sloan here is saying, yes, extended through December. That's a great tool for hoteliers. But when combined with this $600, it's making it more difficult for hoteliers to get people to come back to work. So number one, how do you see the PPP issue as being a good or bad tool for hoteliers going forward? And secondly, I'd like to talk a little bit about this conundrum, because I'm on all these Facebook groups all the time, and all of these managers are saying they can't get anybody to come back to work. They're doing twice as much work with half the amount of people that they were hoping to have. Chip, how do you see it, sir?
So yeah, two really important issues there. PPP, when it started, was a good idea. Some changes were made along the way that made it even better. The recent Flexibility Act that we pushed so hard for, that allowed most of the deadlines to be extended to the end of the year, made it even better on top of that. Now, what you saw last week was that the date for applying for a PPP loan, the cutoff was June 30th. They've now extended that into the middle of August, which is good. So if you still want to apply for one, there's still a little bit of money left, and you still have time to apply for one. And then, of course, you can expense everything all the way until the end of the year. If any of it turns into a loan, that was originally a 2-year loan term. They had to pay it back within 2 years. Now we've extended it to 5, and there's a lot of other good things that have happened. So that's working. We still want to push the Restart Act, which would give hotel owners access to a lot more resources than what they're seeing through PPP. That one is critical for us. Another piece of legislation that we're working on deals with Cmbs loans. I don't want to get too deep in that, but that is, and I know Anthony knows how those work.
Oh, yeah.
Very dangerous issue right now, because we see a lot of hotels falling under the pressure of a Cmbs loan. And then the $600 part is critical. So when Congress passed this, part of it, you can look at it both ways. The reality is this: the unemployment program in America is not administered by the federal government. It's administered by the 50 states plus the city of Washington, D.C. The technology that is used in those 50 states is different in all 50 states. And so what Congress had to do was say, look, we just got to come up with one number that we can apply to all 50 states, realizing the economies are much different in different places. So they came up with that number, $600. Now, $600 in New York City and $600 in Oklahoma is completely different, but it's across the board. It's equal. And so let's say in your state of, I'm going to use DC as an example because I know what that is. In DC, the average monthly or average weekly unemployment benefit is around $375. No, $450. That's what it is, $450. So you add $600 on top of that. It's over $1,000 a week in unemployment. And to your point, Glenn, what's happening is some of these hotels are opening up and saying to folks, hey, we need you to come back. And they're like, I'm making over $1,000 a week, not working. Why would I come back and work for less?
Right.
And so people are not coming back. Now, the law is that if your employer asks you to come back and you don't come back, you're not supposed to continue to collect the $600. But the only way that the state, or in the case of DC, the city is going to know about that is if the employer calls the city or state and tells on the employee. Well, that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, it's kind of a jerky move.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I like what you were saying, that there's on Capitol Hill right now, there seems to be one of the bills that seem to have a little bit of both. I like that idea of the credit towards it. So you give your salary and then you can make up the federal government or your states can make up the difference there. I think that's the right tool to get people to come back to work, help us get through this this crisis in the short term. Politically speaking, it's probably the right thing to do on one side of the aisle. On the other side of the aisle, they probably would just like to eliminate it all together, right? So I'm very much politically moderate. I think both sides have a lot of progress to make. I like to come together in the middle. So I see that as a pretty good solution.
You know, this is what I don't understand. I don't understand where business and employees are separate. If you help businesses and businesses open, employees get paid. Because of hotels, I've made a good living. If owners didn't buy hotels, I wouldn't have a job. So, yes, if Pepsi-Cola got $50 million, in the PPP money, that's wrong. But these little companies need more money, and if they don't, employees don't work. And for some reason in Congress, and whether you're Republican, Democrat, Independent, wherever you are, they see it as they're exclusive entities, and they're not. Like you help the employee, you help the business. It's how it works. That's what America's been built on. And to be able to extend that $600, all you're doing is you're extending that everything that everybody's not for, right? Everybody's saying in this country we don't want socialism. Well, here you go. Okay. And again, when it was needed, it was great. But right now, you're not getting people. Now, what happens if they pass in San Francisco, if they pass that law? Where the hell are they going to find those employees if they're giving them $1,000 a week to work, to stay home?
Yeah,
where they going to get?
Right. Yeah.
And what are you going to do? You're going to have union problems, and then the union problem is going to sue, and then there's going to be back pay for everybody. It's going to be an absolute mess. And just for people that don't understand, when these negotiations happen and when these conversations happen, there's not a lot of rainbows and butterflies in the room. Okay, they're really.
How about unicorns?
They retire people, some of these meetings. I have some of my friends walked out of those meetings and retired. I mean, they're very, very aggressive on both sides. So we just need to stop the rhetoric, and we just need to get people back to work, and we need to get hotels open again. And I need to get people to wear their masks so we can get people back to traveling again. Because, Chip, me and you need a vacation. Glenn's got vacations. We need a vacation.
What vacation do I have? Hold on a second.
The vacation you took to Japan.
Oh, the one that I'm not taking this year because I can't get overseas. I remember.
Look, Anthony, I think you hit on something that is a much, 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 much larger issue in our society. And that is, we have come to a place in the United States where everyone is placed into a group, and then there are organizations out there. When I say organizations, Congress, the media, unions, businesses, they all want to pit us against each other. They say, you be in this group, you be in this group. We're going to pit you. It's happening on racial lines right now, which is it's so scary and so sad. It happens unions and non-unions. It happens Democrats and Republicans. And most of the Americans that I know and associate with, and they're not just my friend group, but I'm getting on up there in age, so I know a lot of people, they just reject this idea. Don't put me in a group. I'm an individual. I want to treat everybody else like an individual.
Right.
And they all, the only reason they're successful is because they pit us against each other, and we got to reject that.
It's absolutely, and you can't. When I run a business, I will go against the ownership, and I will lose my job if I have to for my housekeeper. I will hold my housekeeping team and my employees accountable to the ownership because we have to make money so the hotel stays in business. We can do both. We can fight against people that don't treat people well, and we can make sure that we hold people accountable to do their job. That is what the world should be, right? Show up, shut up, do your job, and when you're not being respected, speak up. And too many people in too many positions, and I'm going off on a tangent here, of leadership do not fight for their employees. And then all of a sudden you have a different group fighting for their employees. So now they just sit there and say, that guy's going to fight. It happened to me with one of the hotels I did. Everybody loved the hotel. They loved the owners. They loved me. I just sent somebody on vacation who won employee of the year. They come back and they said, we're joining the union. And I was like, you are? He said, yeah. The rates were the same. The health benefits were the same. It was okay, great. I'm not stopping you. And you know what? When you leave, you'll get a retirement. Great. Fantastic. They joined the union and they were fine. And everybody was still working together and they wanted to join the union. It worked out.
Yeah.
Was it the ownership's favorite thing that they did? No, but it was fine. And they're happy. They go into the hotel today and they're going to retire. And I'm happy for them. We can all work together. We don't have to scream and yell at each other and hate each other.
That's the most ridiculous thing that you've ever said, Anthony. I'm entrenched in my argument.
For 30 years, and Glenn hears me say this every day. Mm-hmm. For 30 years, I have been fighting for that young lady or that young man that cleans 18 toilet bowls a day. So I am 100% in their corner. I do not want their job to be taken away by ridiculous regulation that will get these hotels shut. And that is just that's just rhetoric. That's not going to get them employed. That's going to get them terminated. And then we're going to have to keep them on that $600 more a week because no one's going to have a job.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Chip, before we wrap up with you today, I want to ask you about that travel tax credit that's making its way around Capitol Hill right now. Quoting from a release that you folks put out, by nearly 3-to-1 margin, Americans support a new temporary federal tax credit to encourage people to travel, and restoring the business entertainment expense deduction to encourage business travel. Two smart ideas that will help put money in the pockets of businesses and get us back on our feet. I love that. Tell us a little bit about that, if you would, please.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn. So this is it's really an interesting idea. First of all, it really speaks to the notion that people kind of understand what's going on. We as an industry, and thankfully you guys have been getting out that message about what is the status of the hospitality industry. And so the average American says, those guys are hurting. We need to do something for them. And instead of just direct handouts, and that's certainly going to come to an end at some point, how do we incentivize people to travel? Well, you've got the business side. There's no question about that. Those type of tax incentives have been around for decades. The president was actually talking about this months before the pandemic started. Mm-hmm. How do we go from 50% to 100% of expensing on that? And that's a great idea. No question about it. We need it. But what has come out of Congress recently is this idea that how do we incentivize just average, everyday Americans to take that vacation?
Yeah.
And we've never seen that before. And that's really, really important. So you're talking, there's a lot of proposals out there, anywhere from $4,000 up to $8,000 in tax credits for you taking that a vacation. So if you spend it on a hotel, an airline, or restaurants on some sort of out-of-town vacation, you're going to get a credit for that. And that's phenomenal. We certainly support that. And it's gaining momentum. At first, it was just one of those ideas that that would be nice. But we're starting to see some momentum.
Yeah, I like that idea. Anthony?
No, I think it's great, and I think it's really important. I'm more concerned about the $3 trillion in money we just spent, and I don't know how we're going to get it back. And I think we're going to be in recession for 10 years. I'm sorry, I was just thinking that just all went.
What about the other 15 trillion that we already owe? But that's a story for another day. What I really like about
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
What I really like about this, Chip, is because it hews closely more to the United States capitalism ethos as opposed to more of a socialism type of doctrine by giving people money. If we could encourage people to spend their money by giving them a tax credit, I think that aligns very well with the American values out there. So I think that's a pretty cool idea. Anthony, now?
I was just going to say the number one priority. What's going on in San Francisco? What's going on in New York? What's going on across the country? There's two things we have to do. We have to wear a mask and we have to be kind to each other. Mm-hmm. We don't do those two things and we lose America.
Yep. Chip, any final thoughts? Anything else we didn't talk about that you want to make sure that we cover, sir?
not necessarily hotel related. I mean, it is hotel related, but I'd like to point this out. There's been a lot of talk about what's happening with the pandemic. A little fast fact for you. Do you know that yesterday was the lowest number of deaths in the United States due to coronavirus since back in March?
Wow.
I know we've been talking about spikes in testing and spikes in people having the virus. But I mean, our country's done a pretty good job on this. And to Anthony's point, we can lower that even more if we take the right precautions, if we take responsibility for our own actions. But you hear so much fear and doom and gloom. I wanted to point that out. Fewer people died of the coronavirus yesterday than at any day since March. That's a good news story.
But the problem with that is, yes, you're right. But the more it spikes, the more people are scared to travel. So because people aren't hearing that number. And you know what? If I know I had a meeting last week in South Florida, I didn't go because I'm afraid I'm going to come back and give it to my father-in-law. So I agree with you 100%. So people have to wear their masks so we can get that number low so we're not afraid to travel and bring it back to our family members. You know, if I travel, I don't want to get coronavirus, but am I overly concerned about it? I'm really not overly concerned about it. I'm overly concerned about giving it to someone, you know, that is over the age of 60 or 70 years old. And that's fear. And so to me, those numbers have got to go hand in hand. The death number is great, but we've got to get that number or people will not travel. People will stop traveling. And that's my biggest concern.
Yeah, I think, Anthony, you're exactly right. The point that I'm trying to make to folks is the big picture in this should be really focused on three things. That is, what are the number of cases? What are the number of hospitalizations? And what are the number of deaths? And what's interesting is when this thing first started, all three in tandem went up. What we're seeing right now is a spike in cases. Hospitalizations generally are flat and deaths are coming down. And so there's some interesting things happening out there in the marketplace. When I say the marketplace, the coronavirus marketplace, we know how better to treat this.
That's right.
We should know how better to act and behave. Some younger people don't. But if we will all do that, you'll see that death number keep coming down. And I think once that gets closer to zero, people will say, okay, this is now manageable, which is so critical.
Right. Excellent. I mean, I think that's perfectly well said. Chip, how can people get involved? What should people be doing? Anything else to throw support behind you, the AHLA, and some of the other lobbying organizations out there?
Well, first and foremost, they should be watching your show every day.
Thank you.
I'm not just saying that because I'm here. I mean, honestly, I'm on a lot of these, and none of them are as good and as timely as yours are. Between you two gentlemen and what you've been able to accomplish the last few months, people should be watching this if they want to stay on top of things. Second, go to our website, sign up for Hotels Act. I say that everywhere I go. We've gone from back in February, about 3,500 people as part of Hotels Act, over 50,000 now. But we need over 100,000 in our industry to sign up for it. It's free. It's the single best way that we can communicate to you and that we as an industry can communicate to elected officials. That's going to be the difference.
Well, you know, all the work that you do, some of it gets seen, but the real, you know, grunt work that you're doing every day that people don't see, I know what you're doing and I appreciate it. And no one understands how important it is to have a leader like you in the position you're in. And again, from every time you're here, I just more and more am indebted to you. So thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And Chip, please let us know if there's anything that we could do specifically to help our fellow hoteliers out there that we may not already be doing. We're here for you. We're here to throw all of our support behind the AHLA.
Listen, I can go negotiate the San Francisco one.
I may be calling on that one. Yeah.
I mean, they may fit me for an orange jumpsuit after the meeting now.
I'm going to send you a boxing mask and a first-class ticket to San Francisco. How about that?
All right, my friend.
Chip, we'll have you back when we hopefully get some more news in the future about all the great stuff you're doing. Thank you so much again for being here, and enjoy your stay in Florida.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was good. Now, coming up right next, we have one of the best travel agents in the country. But before we bring on Rebecca Alesia, I think we need to just take a moment and digest that conversation. We really talked a whole lot about there, a lot of different things on a lot of different tracks, but it really seems to me that there's still a lot of friction between people trying to figure out what the actual answer is going to be to help get people back to work, help to get people back to traveling, and help people make money again.
You know, it gets me emotional. I'm going to try not to cry. It gets me emotional. I want people to have a job that they feel passionate and they love. And I want them to get back to work. I want housekeepers to go back to work. I want front desk people to go back to work. I want everybody to go back to work and not have to take that $600, not be afraid they're going to get sick, not be abused by their bosses. I just want people to do what this country's been built on. We treat people with respect and care. And it's just more and more crazy. So if you look at the San Francisco conversation, well, people say, well, Anthony, you're not pro-union. Well, Anthony, you're anti-union. No, I am pro-employee.
Right.
And you do that in San Francisco, and these people won't have a job for 10 years.
Right.
You will literally, the travel industry in San Francisco will cease to exist. And so there's only so many Uber drivers they need. I mean, these people are not going to find work. Our job is to give everyone work.
Right.
You know, and it's just really infuriating to me. Because again, I understand both sides. That is not get. Why would you want that incorporated into the hotel business, but you're not even going to incorporate it to a public building? So you're saying you got to clean a public space every 10 seconds,
right?
A private space in a hotel, but you don't have to clean the
right.
courtroom. It's ridiculous.
And that's why people get really annoyed with government. And to go back to Chip's comments about how we seem to be forced to take sides on every single issue, it's really frustrating because the unions are great, but sometimes they're fundamentally wrong. Owners are great because they create jobs, but sometimes they're fundamentally wrong. And we need to call out what's right, what's wrong, and what the actual things are that can help us get back to business and be honest about it. We can't just blindly choose one particular side and check off all the boxes, whatever that side is.
And I'm really glad to hear that New York, there comes some kind of consideration because Peter Ward and the union, they're very strong. And but they also understand, you know, the financial end of it for hotels. So hopefully they came to a good deal for everyone. So that I would imagine, hopefully, maybe, I don't know, maybe the New York union can help the San Francisco union make sense, because I will tell you this, 100%, those owners in San Francisco are not playing. They cannot open their hotel. It's not that's a threat. They can't open it. They can't open it. There's not a bottom, you know, there's not a pit of money. I mean, they can't open. If you're running 9, 10, 12, 15% occupancy, and then you're tripling my salaries, then I can't find the people because they're on $600 a week. What are you doing? Just close it.
Right.
And take your loss. Okay, which will probably, you know, wind up for tax purposes better for them, and then move on and go invent a ventilator, go invent, a cleaning product, and that's what the entrepreneurs do. So it's just really, really, really frustrating to me. And when you get someone like Chip, when you see somebody on our show who is very articulate and very even keeled, get to the point where he is about to explode, because you saw it. I mean, you saw it, it's just bubbling up. Like it's insanity.
Yeah, it sure is. All right, let's go from the insane to something a little bit more positive. Let's talk about what's actually going on with travel from a travel agent's point of view. Rebecca Alesia, one of the top travel agents in the country. You are looking a little dark today because it's so bright behind you.
I can't see you.
But while you're fixing that, she of course is with Wanderology.com, a division, independent subsidiary of SmartFlyer. You probably know them as a virtuoso travel agent. So you're dealing with a lot of very high-end people over here. We love what you do. Chip and I and Anthony were talking about potential travel credit. How do you feel about something like that before we get into some of the general trends that you're seeing, Rebecca?
Oh, I totally agree with what Chip was saying. It's music to our ears in the travel industry. I mean, I'm sorry for the lighting. I'm on location here in the Poconos. So
you're always on location.
Where are you? Where are you?
She's been traveling so much during this no travel time. It's unbelievable.
Rebecca, where are you?
So I am up here in Hawley, Pennsylvania, Poconos Mountains, Woodlock Lodge, Woodlock Pines.
Sure.
Absolutely gorgeous up here, totally socially distant. They are knocking it out of the park with their protocols. It's very relaxing. But,
do you know of any good resorts that are emotionally distant so I could feel comfortable at those resorts? Sorry,
well, you know,
on.
my suitcases haven't been anywhere, so I have emotional baggage.
Yeah. So last time we saw you, you were in your apartment, I believe, right?
Yes, I was at home last time we spoke, and I did take off from traveling for a little bit, but you know what, we don't like to sit still for too long. My family are like nomads, and we were originally had plans to go down to Hilton Head, and like everything has been for the last 3 months, we did a pivot, right? I mean, that is the name of the game right now. You have to be flexible, and for our clients as well, we sort of analyzed the situation, decided that maybe it was better for us not to take, we have our parents are a little elderly, and we have children with us. So we instead rerouted ourselves up here to the Poconos Mountains. It's been absolutely beautiful. The resort is at half capacity. They have all of their protocols totally on point. You do a wellness check when you get here.
What is the wellness check? What is the wellness check? What is it? What is that exactly?
Great. So I'll sort of walk you through. When you pull in, instead of going directly to reception, they have a tent outside. They're taking your temperature. They're asking you questions about where you've been, where you're coming from. They're checking to make sure you don't have any symptoms, how you've been feeling, all those things. You have to sign off on it. And until you clear that, you can't go onto the premises at all. Once you do that, you go into reception and they have markers on the floor, right? So they're showing you where to stand, making sure not everyone is crowding together. They have sanitizer as soon as you walk in throughout, I would say probably, I don't know, every 200-300 feet, there's a sanitizing pump. Everyone is wearing masks, and there are gentle signs everywhere asking people to please wear masks and be conscious of, when you're interacting with staff. And I have to tell you, I mean, it takes getting used to, because nobody likes the masks. I mean, I think we're all in agreement that they kind of stink. But once you get past that, it's like being on vacation. It's wonderful.
So when you're walking around the resort, you don't have to have the mask on, or you do? I missed that.
You have to have the mask on. You have to have the mask on in all public spaces and when walking to and from activities. Now, Woodloch, you guys might know, is a very high activity place. That's part of their charm. I will tell you, they are wiping down the go-karts. They are wiping down the bumper cars. They are going inside the bowling balls and cleaning out the finger grips. It is totally, totally clean here to a really wonderful degree.
I'm amazed the restaurants are still bowling. That's pretty good to hear.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And that you look like a bowler, Glenn. But
I'm a baller, not a bowler.
But you know what, Rebecca? It's so important to have you on here talking about these things, because yes, it's more effort. Yes, maybe it's more expensive, but it gives you so much faith. Matter of fact, I may go there now because you said that.
Yeah, I was just thinking that too.
Before I forget, I have to do my commercial for my favorite hotel in the world. I don't know if I mentioned you last time. Have you been to the Roxbury Contemporary Resort?
You know what? Not only did I look at it after you told me about it, but I sent it to a group of other advisors in my office. So, we're just waiting a little bit, but I love a throwback like that. Boy, that is cool.
No, please go there. I'm telling you, it's going to blow your brains out. And they're at the same protocol.
Hopefully not literally.
It's the same protocol level as Woodloch. They are insane. So, and they just opened something called Stratton Falls, where they have these 8 buildings. I mean, it's over a waterfall. If you don't think it's one of the best places you've ever seen and you've seen everything, I'll be shocked.
I'll definitely reach out to them and try to get them on the chart.
All right. So for those of you just tuning in, Rebecca Alesia is in police custody in the witness protection program over there. That's why we have her darkened. But Rebecca, I'd like to know, how are they able to make money, in your opinion, if they're running at half capacity?
You know what? I don't have a strong answer for that. The rates are not jumped higher than what I'm accustomed to seeing. We're paying what I think is a very reasonable rate. Now, we did a house rental, which they have here, and that's a real trend I'm seeing this summer.
Of course.
For people asking for condo style and home style, but their hotel is open as well. They may actually only be breaking even this summer, but hey, I imagine that's a lot more than they thought they were going to do. We had last night's entertainment was a magician. I mean, can you imagine, in this time you're sitting in a theater and watching a magician? I never thought that was going to happen. I mean, if you said a month ago, I just wouldn't have thought it. And he actually said, the magician said, that a month ago he thought he was going to be out of work for the rest of his life.
Right.
So it is so affirming. It feels so good to be here and be at least see other people and sort of emerge from our cocoons a little bit and start to think, maybe some sunlight's coming out, maybe it's going to be okay.
Was he a good magician?
He was great. I mean, totally family friendly.
Then why do we still have the virus? You couldn't make that disappear?
It's funny. I was thinking that, but I thought that might be a little too crude of a joke to make. But I'm glad you made it, Anthony.
It's so important so tell me how the show worked. How many people were in the theater? Was it outside? How did it work?
So in their nightclub, they are, and this is great. I thought this was so smart too. So they're doing the social distancing by separating the tables, but this is what they say to you. Please go to a table that has a candle lit. So instead of them taping off the tables you're not supposed to sit at or making you feel like reminding you, instead, you just go to a table that has a candle lit, and you naturally notice that the room is only at half occupancy. They're having 2 shows every night so that everyone still has access and can see.
Oh, cool.
And you wear your mask in. They ask you if you're not eating or drinking to please keep it on. But we of course we're drinking. If you know my family, we're drinking. So we had our cocktails. The kids had their Shirley Temples, and we watched the show from a socially distanced perspective, and it feels really good. It feels really good.
Yeah, it's you. When you said that, it sounded like almost relief.
Right.
You almost sounded relieved. And
I think so. I'm trying to help lighting, guys. I'm sorry.
No,
that's all right. Don't worry about it.
Better. That lighting's better. And that's another thing that that we talked about a lot is social distancing and making places feel natural without it looking like a hospital. With can't sit here, can't do this, can't do that. It's like you walked in, and that's such a beautiful nuance. It's just a little nuance of go to the table that has a candle. Like, again, for people that don't realize, it's not a big deal. But for people like us, it's like that's everything.
Right.
Totally agree. And the staff here, and again, I don't mean to make this a Woodlock commercial because there are plenty of
we're going to move on. We're going to move beyond that. And
I will tell you
tell them that Anthony and I should come up there and do a live broadcast.
I would definitely let them know. But I will say, friendly staff, no matter where you are, their smiles come through even with a mask.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So
I'm booking as soon as we get off this. I'm booking a house up there.
All right. So
okay.
Yeah, of course. And of course, you can find her at wanderology.com. That's wanderology.com. So, Rebecca, you mentioned that home seemed to be a trend this summer in terms of what people are booking. What are you seeing beyond that?
So the beautiful thing about what's going on, right, is that we're seeing a resurgence in domestic travel and in local travel, which is great for our local economy. We have clients this summer that are going up to New England. We have Chatham Bars Inn, Wequassett. We talked about Woodlock. You have Skytop Lodge. You have Mohonk. These are all family-friendly resorts. So beaches, lakes are very popular. Lake George, Lake Placid Lodge, Sagamore up in Lake George. People are looking to get someplace with their family where there's a lot of outdoors, where they can drive from wherever they're from. Now, I'm talking from a northeastern, tri-state area perspective, but I have a lot of clients in Chicago, and they're going to Blackberry Farms. I don't know if you're familiar. Amazing, like off the charts, beautiful hiking, high-end spa, gorgeous food. We're seeing in California, people are going in Santa Barbara, local places that are driving distance from where they are. And, all of these places have undertaken different measures, different systems to implement safety protocols, COVID-friendly social distancing. And I definitely think people are ready to get out a little bit.
Without mentioning the names, have you seen any place that you're like, ooh, they need improvement?
Yes, and I don't want to mention the name of where it was, but there is one resort that we had some very unhappy clients at, and that there was no social distancing being practiced. Now, it was in a southern state where the laws are different. So if you're coming from a New England or New York area where everyone is wearing a mask and we're all super, conscious of it, and going to a place where the rules are different, it's just a social norm. Yeah.
And we've talked about that. That's going to happen? You're going to walk into a place and they're not wearing a mask. You're like, I want everybody to wear a mask. Like, well, we didn't think you wanted to wear a mask because no, we want you to wear a mask. That's probably happening all around the country.
Correct.
So I'm looking at this Blackberry Mountain. I love their tagline, your own private national park, because it's over 4,000 acres over there. That really captures the sentiment to me for what people are looking for this summer.
100%. And of course, the RV travel has been, I've never, I was like, I don't think I ever booked an RV in the entire time I've been in the industry. And I could talk to you for 45 minutes just about the different kinds of RVs.
Really?
Now I'm.
Uh-oh. all right. We lost you there for a second, but
I lost you for a second. Sorry.
Yeah, it looks like
really,
it's all good.
So talk about that. What does the RV traveler look like now? Like, give me an example of an average RV traveler today that wasn't an RV traveler yesterday. Like, give me an example.
Oh my gosh, so many families from Long Island are calling and asking about these RVs, and they, the first thing is, which people have to realize, they're so long, right? Your average minivan is 18 feet. The smallest RV we can get you in is 24 feet. That's very large. So, people have to get used to and comfortable with the idea that they're going to be, and, in our society, if it's a husband and wife, they should be sharing the driving, in my opinion. So you got to get comfortable with the idea of driving that really is, in essence, a truck. If you can get past that.
Wide turns.
Wide turns and slow.
And it's exhausting because I've driven those like on the show and stuff, and you drive 10 miles and you're exhausted because you're so stressed out.
Yeah, and the gas bill could stress you out.
Right.
But the insides, what they've been doing is incredible. I mean, they have granite, the countertops are granite and the floors are that, faux wood tile, and they have bedding for up to 6 people. Super comfortable accommodations, little like mini Viking appliances. They have really nice showers. And, it is something what I've heard a lot of people say is, if I'm not going to do it this summer, when am I going to do it? So people are testing it out. Most of my people are blending that with hotels. Most Long Island girls, I can say, are not spending a week fully in the RV.
Now let's see how good your knowledge of RVs technology is. What's happening in the bathrooms of RVs? Because I know you have to change everything, but now I heard there's a whole new system. Do you know anything about that?
Well, I can give you my limited knowledge on the bathroom situation is that when you're on the road, it tanks in the bathroom and the water hookup is through a water tank that's in your vehicle with you. When you get to your campsite, you have to literally bilge that out, which is not a job for the mom of the family, as far as I am concerned. If you have a teenage son, that is a perfect job.
Oh, I like that idea.
Wait, you can share the driving, but you can't share that part?
No. That's where feminism ends, Anthony. When it comes time to pump the toilet, the septic.
Right. And so, just don't do what Dave Matthews Band trailer did, which was dump it over the side of the bridge right onto a group of people a number of years ago.
Oh, that's terrible.
So I love that idea of doing that type of trip. But all of these things that you're talking about, it really changes the supply-demand economics that's going on. So how is pricing adjusting this summer? You said it wasn't really that much of a difference at Woodloch, but maybe other places that you're seeing a differential in price than it would have been last year.
So the hotels are about in line with where you'd think. Some of the places out east on Long Island it may be up a little, but they might have been anyway. They go up year over year.
Yeah.
New England beach resorts the same. The RVs, you can't believe the price of some of the. I mean, this is the numbers have gone up, in my opinion, over 50% of what they normally are for an RV rental, and even to purchase them, and especially on the smaller RVs. You want to.
Rebecca, we lost you there. Could you please repeat that last little bit?
Sure. The longer RVs, because they're less in demand, are easier to get, and the pricing is more reasonable. If you want those 24-footers, they're few and far between.
What does a 24-foot nice RV go for?
We're seeing about $3,300 to $3,800 for a week, and about $5,000 for 2 weeks.
You know what? That's not so bad, because if you go on vacation and you planes and hotel rooms, you're going to spend $3,800 in a week.
I would agree, but you still have to pay for the campsites, the hookups, and those kind of things. So that's just something to keep in mind.
Or just park at a Walmart.
No electric and nowhere to dump out your sewage there, though.
Well, whenever I've done the RV, we had very specific rules about when you cannot use the bathroom. So I like the idea of jumping into my buddies and I have done that a couple of times.
Following fish around the country?
Pretty much. We drove down to we drove down to Florida to go see the concert from Bringing in the Millennium in 2000. So that was a lot of fun to drive down to Florida with them. We've driven up to Maine and stuff like that. So we have some RV experience. I prefer to stay in luxury hotels.
Me too.
I just hope they're coming back. So what are you seeing across markets, if you don't mind me asking, as far as market segments, as far as the 3-star, 4-star, 5-star? Are you seeing people going back to the 5 stars? Are you starting to see that traveler go? Because I'm concerned. I really am concerned about some of those brands that they're not going to make it. And so tell me what's going on.
My luxury travelers are definitely back more quickly than some of my moderate and economical. I mean, Four Seasons was the first they were like Johnny on the spot, teamed up with Johns Hopkins. You know, they're leading the way with their social distancing and COVID protocols. And I think the bigger brands, you're going to see that. I don't know if I'm sure you guys have seen that Rosewood snapped up a bunch of hotels during this last 2 months, which is kind of cool. So there's definitely some good reshuffling going on. And luxury clients, luxury guests, I think, are traveling. Family-friendly condo rentals and home rentals are traveling. That intermediate space, I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay. Right. Well, I will be calling you because I will be booking a trip now. You've convinced me in the next probably month.
Love to hear that.
And then, Rebecca, when I do get to go to Japan next year, I want you to help me with that one as well, because you're so good at planning those amazing trips. All right, so be sure to check out Rebecca. Find her at wanderology.com. Wanderology.com. Anthony, anything else?
So me getting all antsy. I have a question. I want, if you wouldn't mind, Rebecca, I want to go through a typical phone call of a person, and not talking your guest that know your client that knows you, for years, because they call you, they trust you, you say something and they go. I'm not talking about that client. I'm talking about a client that knows you through a friend. They call you. What is that phone call like? Hey, Rebecca, I want to travel. What should I do? Where does that look like?
The first question is who is going with you? What does your family look like? Is it you? Are you going, are you a woman who's recovering from a divorce and you want a restorative trip? Are you husband and wife newlyweds and you're looking for an intimate romantic getaway? Or do you have 3 kids and you need a room big enough for everyone to have their own bed? Those are the really important details to get started with. Budget is always the second question, because we can find almost anything, but I need to know that I'm not presenting you with, with a mansion when you're looking for a ranch, right? And right now, which didn't used to be my third question, but distance. Are you willing to fly? Are you willing to drive? How far are you willing to drive? Those are I would say the biggest questions. But really, getting to know someone's personality is so much more important, right? Are they someone who likes luxury? Do they like a whimsical hotel? Do they want a ton of activities all day long? Or are they looking to pretty much be left alone and be secluded? Mm-hmm. And it takes time. I'm not going to lie to you. We don't always get it the first conversation we have with someone. It takes time to develop a relationship, to have a shorthand with clients where now they just text me and they're like, want to go away this weekend? Where?
When does the COVID social distancing, is it safe question come up?
Right now, it's the first question.
It's the first question they ask you.
Yeah.
Right. And how can you feel secure? Like, you went to Woodloch, you saw it's very safe. You can talk about it. How can you feel safe that the hotels that you're recommending are going to do the right thing? Like, what are your standards? Like, how do you go about that?
Well, I've been fortunate to attend a lot of webinars and Zoom calls with our partners over the past 2 months. And by doing that, I've been able to find out what they're putting into place in advance. But when I'm dealing with a client one-on-one, I try to send them in writing exactly what to expect at the hotel. So, is the bedding going to be delivered in a sealed plastic bag? Is your remote going to be cleaned and in a sealed, sanitized bag, right? What are they doing with the toiletries in the bathroom? Are those amenities, replaceable, recyclable? People want to know. How am I ordering room service? Is it coming? Are they coming into the room with it? How about housekeeping? What if I don't want housekeeping? What if I want housekeeping twice a day? Those questions I'm getting, and that's, I think, where we're really adding value in a way we never did before. Right. Getting those answers one-on-one from the hotels and being able to deliver them to our clients in advance.
That's fantastic. And that's why travel agents are making a comeback, because they're so important.
I hope so.
They're so important. They're critical. They really are, especially for times like this.
Not travel agents, travel advisors, because they're helping you craft experiences. That's what I
will
like
never say that again. I will only say travel advisors. Rebecca, if I insulted you, please don't send me to a bad hotel.
Well, we're going to call you to help book our next trip is what we're going to do.
I got a number. I'm putting it in right now because last time we got off and I didn't put a number on.
All right, Rebecca, let's wrap up with a good shameless plug for you.
All right, listen, now more than ever, the travel advisor community is really here to serve our clients and to help educate a whole new batch. You can find me at wanderology.com or on Facebook and Instagram at Wanderology Travel.
Beautiful. Rebecca, thank you so much for being here. Enjoy the resort.
Thanks, guys. I'd hope to see you soon. I appreciate the time.
Well, if you're in Woodlock in a week, I'll be there.
I may never leave.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. All right. She's now been released from the witness protection program. One comment from, hey, Tara, we totally talk to everybody every day, check their comments and all of that kind of stuff. So please feel free to leave your comments and we'll talk about them just like we are right now. All right.
It's funny. There was one comment that you didn't put up there. A woman that was saying wonderful things, and you didn't even put it up there.
It was probably, if it's a woman saying wonderful thing, it probably has to do specifically with a comment about you.
So what an interesting show. What an interesting show. And, you know, in one show, I went from completely irate to so happy and so relieved that hotels are doing it right. But you know what? There's one person's job I wouldn't want right now. I would not want Chip's job.
Right.
Chip's job now is just a no, or even at a HOA, Rachel's job. I mean, those jobs are just no win right now.
I know.
It's just so difficult.
I feel you know, the challenge our friend Biren Patel, who just assumed the chairmanship of a HOA, for example, in the last few weeks, what he has to deal with, the fact that
I took the day off that day. So what Thursday? What happened? Actually, I didn't take the day off. I was working, but I couldn't get the show. What was the biggest takeaway from that show? I didn't watch it yet.
You know, we talked a lot about what he hopes to accomplish as chairperson, but also how stressful it is that they have to pretty much last minute turn in-person event that we were all hoping was going to be very symbolic of the return to travel and the return to the health of an industry, and turning it into a virtual event. So that was very painful to discuss, but they've got a good platform. They work very well with Chip Rogers, and they're hoping to make things happen. Hey, Jeff, how you doing?
I thought the biggest takeaway from that show was the fact that I was an amazing replacement for Anthony.
Right.
Oh, you were on the show too? He was on the show too?
Yeah, I had him pop on a couple of times.
And just so you know, coming live from Glenn's basement is our producer, Jeff.
Yes. Jeff, hey, pop on for a second.
How are the accommodations in the Houseman Smokehouse?
Yeah, you're over here at the Houseman Resort Pool Club and Smokehouse. You came straight from San Francisco. How was your travel experience like?
Travel experience was fantastic. I will say that when I got to Denver, I had a long layover and I took the train in Denver, and that was the first time that since this lockdown that I felt uncomfortable in any way. The train was not regulated. It was, if there was room, people got in it. Everybody was wearing masks, but it was the closest I've been to that many people. There was no space in that train, and I felt uncomfortable, honestly. But other than that, I flew Southwest. I felt extremely comfortable on Southwest. I think they did a fantastic job. No middle seats. There was plenty of space. They gave you water and a little snack mix. I didn't see a single person complaining about masks or taking their mask off during the flight or anything.
When you got to the hotel, did they ask you to take your temperature before they put you in the basement?
They did not, and I'm not in the basement.
Oh, you're not.
We've got a special video that we're going to show tomorrow where Glenn put me up. It's amazing. It's the most beautiful. I mean, if anyone can take anything from this show, I would email Glenn and try to book a room at his Houseman Resort and Spa, because
I want to see it. All right. Thanks, Jeff. All right, Glenn.
All right, let's wrap this bad boy up. What do you think? All right, everybody. Here's our end of the show. Be sure to subscribe to our newsletter. Text the word hotel to 66866. And of course, on Wednesday, we got the next edition of Hotel Reboot with a lot of great people to help you understand how to reinvest and reinvent your hotel property. And of course, once you learn the nuts and bolts on how to do it, you're going to need continuing education with Hospitality Success. Right, Anthony?
Absolutely. Go to hospitalitysuccess.com or the Facebook Hospitality Success. Now more than ever, people are calling us, asking how to get through the challenges, because once you were shut down, you had to deal with that. But now opening up and unfortunately what this chaos is, we're helping you through that. So we've been real busy. Thank God. And we want to help you through. So go to hospitalitysuccess.com or Hospitality Success on Facebook.
Right.
Thank you, Glenn.
Yeah, and hey, speaking of Biren Patel, he's actually going to be on our Hotel Reboot show. So that's the chairman of AHOA, plus Taylene Stab, the global head of True by Hilton. We also have Ali Hope, who does development for Virgin Hotels, Steve Van, president of Prism Hotels and Resorts, and Mark LeBlanc with Ambridge Hospitality. So be sure to check us out again at hotelreboot.com. Anthony, another great way to start the week. You know, we've got a pretty good set of guests this week. Tomorrow, we've got JD Powers coming on, Mike Taylor from there to talk about the airline industry. I think that'll be a real good conversation. Really? Then our buddy Rob Palesci, President and CEO of Motel 6, returns this week as well. And someone you know, who, believe it or not, I'm not too familiar with, Mikkel Welch.
Yes, he is a designer. And I want to talk about design and what's going on. And his sister, talking about RVs, his sister Nicole was our producer, and she drove the RV on Route 66 because apparently she has experience. I don't know if their father was a trucker or something, or owned a trucking company. So he has a lot of experience with RVs, or she did anyway. She's one of my favorite people in the entire world. So I want to talk about design. I want to talk about the state of design today going forward, and a couple other things we're going to talk about.
Well, if you want to talk about the state of design, well, hold your horses, because on May 13th, we've got Todd Lenahan, the president and chief creative officer at Wynn Design and Development, and the wonderful, incredible Roger Thomas, the EVP Emeritus of Design and Development for Wynn Hotels and Resorts. Roger Thomas helped design every single Wynn property that Steve Wynn ever created. So I'm very excited to have him.
He's going to be on?
Yeah, Monday the 13th.
He's the smartest guy. Oh my God, he's the best.
Yeah, and then on the 14th, we're going to keep it real Vegas. We've got we're working out to have that team from the Drew Las Vegas, thanks to our friend Mike Stengel at Marriott, and we've got a lot of good stuff coming.
Oh, I cannot wait! And also, I just saw something somewhere. I don't know if it was a comment or an article that Wynn is giving you a $200 flying credit. Is that true?
Oh, somebody made a comment on that, but it went back. It went too fast, and I didn't see it. So we'll definitely talk about that next week or later this week as well. All right, Anthony, let's wrap this bad boy up. All right, so I want to thank everybody for being here. Remember, you got one life, so blaze on, and
thank you so much for checking in.